All right, it may not be out of place to conclude that widows in Nigeria are facing hard times, just like many others who are struggling to adapt to the recession that has enveloped the country's economy.
Now, the widowhood status does not come by chance, but not by choice rather, but by chance. Accidents, sickness, and the call of nature exposed many women to several ill treatments when they assume that unwanted widowhood status.
Now, there are considerable controversies as to whether widowhood is a more difficult experience psychologically for men or for women. Now, widowhood is generally a greater problem financially for women than men because they have to fend for the family all by themselves. In the more traditional society where I come from, as in many other societies, human greed exists in many families, and the death of a male member of the family offers an opportunity to other males of the family to increase their holding of the scarce and inelastic commodity such as land.
And widows in most African countries are generally the poorest and least protected by the law because their lives are likely to be determined by local patriarchal interpretations of tradition, custom, and religion. Now, unmarried women are under the control of their fathers, while married women belong to their husbands.
Widows are in a corner and no longer have any protector. For instance, some parts of Cameroon, immediately following the death of her husband, a widow is, among other things, stripped, clean-shaven, and banned from bathing for an extended period of time, during which she remains in isolation. And that almost sounds like something happening in the Benin Kingdom, where a similar practice goes on. Now, in some Kenyan communities, in addition to being evicted from their homes and losing all their property, widows are forced into marital unions with males from their late husbands' families.
Now, that's the background to the story. We're joined now, that's the background to the story. We have joining us right now Dr. Yolanda and George David.
Don't let her husband hear.
No, we'll give it to someone else. Don't mind.
Don't worry. Betrothal, we don't do that here, thank God.
Yolanda, it's good to have you join us right now.
Good morning. Great to be back again.
Now, we're also joined, of course, by a widow who will be sharing her personal experience with us, Alice Yusuf.
Yeah.
It's so good to have you.
Alice, you're welcome this morning.
Good morning.
Yeah. All right, let's take this report and then we come back to dwell on the program. Stay with us right now.
God Almighty will make them to reap what God prepared for them. They will not die premature deaths.
Nkechi, Shama, and Mercy lost their husbands years ago, but the incident for them feels like it happened yesterday. These women could not hold back their emotions as they reflected on how rough the road has been for them without their spouses.
My husband's family abandoned me and my children. They don't know if my children is going to school or not. They don't know. If not this foundation.
Well, I suddenly found myself a widow with 4 children, and it's not easy coping all alone. Especially when the husband family decided to collect everything that could have used to educate these children.
When my husband left me, it wasn't a good one because all my thinking was how to raise the children, because those children, they have been attending good school. Immediately their father died, I could not afford to pay their school fees.
These 3 women, like other widows here, had struggled all alone until help finally came their way through this group of people that provides succor for not just widows but the downtrodden. Each of these women was given a certain amount of money to support their families.
Since they have been paying my children's school fees, I have peace of mind now. Before, I cannot sleep without taking my BP drug, but now I sleep like newborn baby. I'm so very grateful.
It's not just enough for you to pay the fees, the school fees for the children. There are other expenses that they also need to meet. So how do you help them? How do you empower them? That's why we developed a project we call Vocational Skills Acquisition Project. That project is to help women acquire skills, vocational skills, particularly in craft.
Foluke, the group coordinator, believes partnership between the government and non-government organizations would go a long way in putting broad smiles on the faces of these women, as well as give them hope that tomorrow will be better. Abimbola Agbibi, TVC News, Lagos.
All right, it's good to know that somebody is actually thinking about the widows.
All right, Yolanda, let me start with you here. When you mention the name Africa, culture comes into play in the mind of anyone. Tradition comes to play in the mind of anyone. And we're known to have this communal way of living where everyone cares for the other person. Everybody knows the other person's family and all of that.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the treatment of widows, it doesn't take the same kind of approach. Why is it that, why do you think there's that missing link?
I think the missing link is the same thing that applies when when rain starts falling, you realize, you now find out who owns the umbrella. When the sun is shining, anyone can hold it because it's luggage. When it's shining, everyone will come because holding it is extra job. And so everyone comes to the house. The widow is not yet the hindrance between them and the source of income, because as long as the salary is coming, they can make up stories and tell uncle this story. Unfortunately, when you look at the actual structure of the African family, we have very, very lazy, entitled group of young ones expecting to inherit a certain amount of things. So when you have a group of people waiting for an inheritance, once the death happens, it's as good as asking the hyenas why they showed up when the giraffe died. It's impossible. They were waiting. That's how they survived.
Now, who really is to blame? Maybe we should even define exactly who a widow is, because I was surprised to read in the scripture that a widow is someone from the age of 60. But you have a 30-year-old whose husband dies. So what happens to such people? But who is to blame really for the plight of widows? Is it the widow herself who in the lifetime of her husband does not empower herself? Or is it the laws that are not enforced by government? Or is it even society that refuses to see that things have changed? But we'll answer that.
You answer that,
of course, you know, when we return from this break,
Yeah.
it's usual. We must take this break, and when we come back, we'll continue this discussion. Stay with us.
All right, if you're just joining us, you're watching TVC Breakfast. On this segment, we're discussing the plight of widows in our society. And Ngozi, you were asking a triple barrel or quadruple barrel
and I'm
question
about to
earlier.
make it a quadruple barrel question, as a matter of fact. You know, the question earlier, before we went on that break, exactly who it is to blame, whether it's the widow herself who does not protect herself, empower herself enough in the lifetime of the man.
Okay.
Is it the government who does? We have laws.
Yeah.
It's amazing that we have laws, but they're not enforced. Or is it the society that refuses to see that things must change? Or is it even the man who dies intestate in many instances?
Okay. Well, first things first is you define the widow. That definition was set in a particular different customary setting, and that was before in the Old Testament. A widow, actually, by law, is a woman who has lost her husband, her legally married husband. Now, legally, in the African sense of it, actually recognizes the customary setting too. Now, unfortunately, a lot of the women who are being disenfranchised, because remember, men also lose their wives.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but a
sure.
lot of them are being disenfranchised because of the setting of the marriage, in which it looks like the woman, from the time she's been born, she's groomed to pray to get married to. It's her biggest achievement to get in there. And so when she loses the only trophy she was made to, this all her parents groomed her for. You're just supposed to take care of this man and keep him alive. And so a family feels like they sent him to school, and everything they did, you just came from one place because you look pretty and you've taken. So from the point of marriage, from the point a father is asking for a plot of land, 7 cars as a bride price, a mother-in-law is angry, a brother is angry, so they are being set up to fail. And that's why you look in every community where the bride prices are higher, we've been able to also see a reflection on the higher torment that the wife goes through when she loses the husband. Because the higher we paid for you, the amount of wrappers we gave for you makes you a bigger gold digger. So the moment he died, you took everything. And so how do we actually now bring it back home? When you say, is it the woman that did not empower herself? No matter how empowered a woman is, it's impossible for us to define the presence of a man. That's why at our last Widows program, a lot of women came in begging. We took over 9,300 widows, but a lot of them came in begging and saying that they are as good as widows because their husbands are living dead. Their husbands don't take care of them, do not provide for them. So we had to start handling. We have something we now call women, single women who are married. That's what we call them, because we don't want to call them widows, we live in husbands. And so you look at all of these things, the strata in the economy makes it look like the moment child is hungry, the mother is to be blamed. The moment the child is not in school, the mother is to be blamed. The man has 6, 7 concubines with several children, and he could pay bride price for these 6 or 7 women according to the customary court. It's only when it's legal then you have one. We talk about the will. The will is present, but some of the wills are written and then coming back to the next of kin. No, the lawyers fail to actually tell the men, your will is not valid if your wife is not the next of kin. Who is your executor of your estate? There are laws. But the problem is the quality of lawyers we have gone to school just enough to pass and get the status. They are yet to actually integrate themselves. And so if there's a case and I call a Femi Falana, I know he's going to know his law and he's going to tell someone this. But I call some of this, a case I called the lawyer last week. In court, I was telling him what part of his constitution to open to see the rights of the woman. Yeah. Because it's based on what they know. Now we think it's far-fetched. In Yoruba land, when a woman loses her husband, she is given to another person in the family. So it's impossible for you to say a Yoruba woman who is a widow, who doesn't have children for 2 fathers. And that's why now women are not even willing to be humble in the relationship because it's a competition. He's going to cheat.
But do you have more of that in the modern society right now?
In the very modern society, they are now called the uncles. They are called the Oloriebis. Forgive me if I'm not getting that. Yes, they move into the house. They sleep with the women, and this is rape. Understand that? And so when the woman is emotionally broken, she has no value, and everybody shines their light on the Igbo culture because the head is shaven. But in the Yoruba and the Hausa setting, amongst the Fulanis, if we go into that, you will even realize that we have better options with the Igbos because you can fight for the Igbo woman. But the Fulani woman is asked to look in control when she comes out, but when she gets back in, she has to answer to all of this. Even in her regular marriage, when the husband was there, she didn't have a say with her male children. And now that the husband is dead, she has no voice.
Okay, let's bring in Alice in here. Alice, you are here. Let's hear from you. When your husband died, what kind of treatment, how did your relative or your husband's relative interface with you?
When my husband died, I don't face any problem.
Okay.
Because my children, all of them are grown.
Okay.
So there's no any problem with me because my first husband died.
Okay.
Then I remarried.
Okay.
So the second one too died. So I don't have problem with them because I have my own work.
Okay. And then your children also assisted and helped.
I thank God for all that.
Which part of the country are you from?
I'm from Oyo.
Oyo
State.
Okay. So Oyo Letiwa?
Ogbomoso.
Okay, so because you are economically okay, you are financially okay, at least you're working, you have business and all of that. It wasn't that difficult for you to adjust.
I think you should rephrase that question because I'm her. But what you're trying to ask you is, when he died from the first marriage, when your first husband died, how were you giving support? How did you struggle? That's what they're asking.
Before he died,
he was.
I support myself.
She was
support
yourself
before he died.
That's
okay. What did they do before he died? The first husband.
The first husband.
Yes.
I'm selling akamu.
Okay.
That's what she was doing. He never living or dead.
Clothes.
Okay.
So how long will you take Mariam? How long will you date together before he died?
We married around 74. Then he died at 88.
Okay.
It is.
That's now more than 10 years with that.
14 years.
For about 14 years.
But I remarried in 92.
Okay.
But when your first husband died, did he have brothers and sisters? That's your first husband when he died?
Yeah, brothers, many relationship, but only that before he died, we hold ourselves.
Okay. So now, those brothers and relatives of your husband, after your husband died, how did they come to support you? Sorry, you know, give you food, give you assistance,
Money.
give you
Try.
money. Okay.
Up to this moment, sir, my first husband relative, then like to be seeing me.
Okay.
Because when I marry, I joke with everybody, so I have no problem with me.
All right, Dr. Yolanda, how does it play out? You know, for a widow, she's an exception. She seems to be some kind of an exception.
And there's a problem.
How does it play out? Does it
She's
have to do with the relationship a woman had in the lifetime of the man with the family? Does it really affect things?
Okay, let me clarify something.
Yes.
Anyone who is listening to her did not sit down in our first or second or third sessions with her in there. So to explain things better, they like seeing her because there was nothing, even after the husband passed, she was still taking care of them. In fact, she still takes care of them. She's always been an independent woman. She is now, this is a different facet. She's the widower in this relationship because financially she's the one that has provided. Her second husband, and he's still providing. And at the time he died, she was at her richest always. And she had taken care of them. And now she has gone poor because there's no support. And she's still taking care of them. We're supporting her at the foundation, and she's still taking her children are right now taking care of them, and I think it will be it's a whole long story, all messed up. But the truth is, at no point has she enjoyed being a wife, being taken care of. So you saying to her, nobody can come to her because the provider didn't die. The provider survived.
She was
so she's now stringing on the first marriage and the second marriage.
Wow.
Are you seeing are you understanding? So now she's now taking care of both the first and then she lost the second person. Now her children are basically supporting her. She's not like she used to be at the time when her second husband died. And even in this state, she's still working. She's the provider. She's still the husbandman. Never changed, hasn't changed. And this is the point I want to bring out here. Because when we look at the marriage, the moment any property, anything that was there, everyone in the family knew that she was the one providing. You go against certain statuses right now, you can kill the person who gives you the money. Do you get? You can ask the person. So the problem right now is the husbands were the husbands because culture demanded that she should be married at that time. But there is no point. At the time she was doing her businesses, if there was any investment in it, a woman like this, with there's no time to mention all of her achievements at the time, but she shouldn't even be thinking of looking for a driver to drive her.
Now, let me bring you an instance. You know, you mentioned something earlier that men lose their wives too.
Yes.
But society somehow seems to have sympathies for the man when the woman dies. The question is, who will take care of him now that he's gone? But when the man dies, the question is, this woman has killed her husband, and so we must carry out tests to ensure that she really is not responsible for killing her husband.
All right, we'll come back to that. Let's go on a break and we dwell more on the topic we're talking about right now. Stay with us on TVC Breakfast. Right, if you're just joining us, you're watching TVC Breakfast. We have been discussing the plight of widows in Nigeria and parts of Africa because the spectrum of Africa seems to be the same when it comes to culture, and we have similarity in all of that. And there's a lot of inhumane treatment to widows around. We have in the studio Dr. Yolanda George David, a psychologist. We also have a widow in here, Alice Yusuf. We've been talking about this. Now, Alice, let me come to you on this again. Now, you talked about your children. First of all, give us, how many children did you have for your husband? The first husband?
Thank God. I have 5 boys.
5 boys?
5 children.
Okay.
The first one has died. We left a son, 2 sons.
Okay.
So the rest, I have only one with me now.
Okay.
The rest has died.
Okay. So the one with you, how old? How old?
It's now in 1982. I born.
That's over 30 years now. Okay. So in the business that you do, does he help you in the business? How is the son helping you or assisting you in what you do?
Well, I leave him to help himself because he has get married.
Oh, he is married now?
He's married. Okay. I have 3 children.
Okay.
So I don't worry because I still get power to
Even though Dr. Yolanda has said you're not as strong as you used to be, which is very understandable.
That's
so since when you come marry your second husband, we die, you get picking for him?
I get one but he die.
You get one but he die. So how many children will you get now when they're alive?
Only one.
Only one
with grandchildren.
Okay. So since if you compare the two, you married the first one, he died, the second one, he died. What will be the biggest pain where you get for your heart as you can't be woman when no get a husband?
Well, I thank God for everything. Because in everything you have to thank God. I don't put anything in mind. That's why I don't get any disease.
That's really instructive.
That's a perspective so many
mind.
women don't have, because you need to be strong
I leave everything
inside.
to God.
Yeah, because even the concept of God, the God factor is a very strong thing.
There's sanctimonious issues, and trust me, first session, second session, leave everything to God. And if you continue to her, you see she's teary eyes now. And eventually she'll break up. I think her problem, like many of the widows, is she never was taken care of as a woman. She never, so it's not about missing the presence of the man. It's wishing there was someone that would actually take care of. But how do you miss what you do not understand?
And what you've never experienced.
Culture made it pertinent that she stayed married. Now, culture and religion has made it pertinent that she gives glory to God. Now,
Dr. Yolanda, let's talk about the social death of the woman when she loses her husband.
Yeah.
She is ostracized, she's taken out of the
she's
normal,
invalidated.
Regular, exactly. She's put in confinement. The water used in bathing the husband, many times she has to drink it to prove that she's not the one behind the death of her husband. She's made to swear all kinds of things. And then the law, there are laws really that have itemized this inhumane treatment of human beings, women generally, not even just the widow.
Yeah, human rights.
This laws are not really enforced. So how can we begin to get the law itself to protect the woman?
The law has always been protection, but I have a lot of clothes in my wardrobe. I'm only wearing one right now. There's the availability of the protection, but it's what you reach out for that gets to clothe you. And so the issue right now is, will the woman be willing to come? I know how difficult it is for these women to come with me even to the police station. In the police station, there are some people who do not even understand her rights, and they're asking her, are you sure? They would not say when your daughter wants to marry, because if the woman doesn't go through the rights, the daughter cannot receive, her bride price cannot be paid in that compound anymore. She can't, if it's in the east, she can attend the Umuada. Yes, if it's if she's Yoruba speaking, the Ashoibi, she would not be able to wear it with the rest of the family, and so she would need to get strangers. So when you lose when you're disinherited, the question is now, do I endure? Because people used to say, you've endured all of the beating, like the case we had to handle last week. The mother was saying to her, this man has beat you for 11 years. God has saved you. If it's just 1 year of torture, endure it so you move on from it. Now this is a lady, and her mother is a judge. But the mother knows what the culture says. And so it's until we start cutting all of these cords to all of these unnecessary cultures, when we start valuing the human psychological death, because we emphasize on physical wounds. If this woman came in here with scars and tells you how the husband had beaten her, everyone will see the empathy of it. But right now, anyone who is married, who knows what it means to be married, hearing her story will now start asking, so you mean there's nothing she's missing? So she buried how many children? She lost to insurgency. She's not even able to, she cannot even process her pain, because every time she tries to process her pain, she's ungrateful, because in all things give thanks. She has gone to hell and back. So the best thing that might have even happened to her was the death of the husband. How do we cure the emotional wounds? We have to now start re-educating our women. From the very beginning, a woman realizes her value is way more than being married. Because it is a social impediment when a woman is only respected when she has a Mrs. to her name. And so if we start changing those, and then if we now start creating little economic settings, like the laws are there, like I said, but there's something about sizing with your wardrobe. We need to start making these laws to be cut to size. There should be laws that say if this woman refuses this, she shouldn't be ostracized or else, because the laws only protect her that she has the right to refuse, but the laws are yet to take care of what happens if she refuses.
Okay, let's bring in Foladele to give us a perspective on social media, how Nigerians are reacting to this. Fola, good morning. Nice to see you.
Good morning, Ngozi. Good morning, Dr. Yolanda. Good morning, Alice. Good to see you. Okay, let's see what some Nigerians are saying about this. Bolanle Olukani says, widows in Nigeria are treated so poorly. Often, once their husband dies, the family becomes the villain, just like in Nollywood films.
It's just a reflection of what is out there. Anyway.
Yeah. Obiozek says, you only need to learn of horrific cultural practices that widows in certain parts of Nigeria bear. Real case of inequality of culture. Hashtag sad. Black Cookie says, a lot needs awareness in Nigeria. Child marriage, widows, rape culture, generally gender equality awareness is needed in Nigeria. Hanson Emmanuel says, why are there so many widows in Nigeria?
Very good question. Very good question.
24 Carats Life says, why are widows passed to male members of their late husband's families in some parts of Nigeria? Hashtag pass Geo Bill, Nigeria. Goldfish says, it is time policies are made to protect widows in Nigeria. You know, I know there's a lot to talk about here, but I actually want to maybe go off this a little. Alice, I want to ask you, I've heard people say that when the husband leaves the widow with children, it kind of makes it harder. But I've also heard people say, oh, when the husband, when there are children, when there are no children, rather, that it makes you wish there were children, because when you look at the child's face, you think of your husband, so you want that. So do you think that it makes it easier or harder to have to take care of children after the husband is gone?
After my husband dies, I take care of them, because there is only one, the only one that died. So I take care of him. He learned work. He didn't go to school much, but he learned work. So now he's at a father's town now, Kwara. He's working there now. He got married. I don't trouble him. I don't ask him anything.
Fola has.
Yeah, Fola, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
There was a question there on one of those. You said you weren't going to react.
I was going to
Why do we have so many widows?
Very valid point. In every community or every country, you see that there's an increment in widows when we have insurgency or deaths. In Nigeria, between the first surge of widowhood increased during the Civil War, and during the Civil War, the men were sent out. And then after that, we now see a backlash, because Nigerians do not realize how many Igbo-speaking and Yoruba-speaking husbands were working in the north. And so Boko Haram insurgency has created another surge. And so over the past 5 years, we have seen an increment of over 400% of the presence of widows. Boko Haram sent her back a widow too. Yes, so you see, with all of this, we now consider the fact that desperation of the need for money to also push men. We have more men die in accidents late at night than we have women, and constantly in any culture where we have women made to be housewives, we'll always have men dying to accidents on the road.
You talked about something earlier about what happens when you know, a woman's husband dies.
Yes.
What happens if a colluder or a person who aids and abets ill treatment of the widow?
Yes.
What happens when they actually help in ensuring that this woman is oppressed? You have a law that says 20,000 or recommends 20,000 naira fine or 6 months jail term for conspiring, aiding, assisting a person to contravene the provisions of Section 4 of the Marriage Act.
Yes.
And then you have 50,000 for institutions and all. And I'm wondering, are these
all those things cover
enough deterrent?
and are only valid at the point of the man's death? Women go through all of this hell because they're trying to create a future for their children. They're talking about 18 years down the line, can my daughter bring her husband back home and can she get married? The law is talking about what happens when you come in at the point of death, and even at that time, many of those are called as family issues. Go and settle them. Now, a lot of the marriages too are actually customary, and so this law does not also cover suit. So what we are saying right now is it's good enough that certain states are saying, come to us, we'll give you shelters, we'll give you protection. But why are we not casting our net further? We still know that all of this ostracizing happens. We still see the presence of all of these quote-unquote uncles who come in to take over companies from women who have built all of that. And you're asking them to go and cohabit. We need to start having real estate management lawyers. We now have to start educating people. And with the economy, a man is so sanctimonious that the moment his wife says, create a will, he goes to tell his family that she wants to kill me.
Okay. All right. That's. I think in the African culture, a lot is going on there. But this is the time. That's the much time can permit us right now. So much we want to discuss, so much we want to say, so many questions we want to ask, but time won't permit us to do all that. But Dr. Yolanda and George David, thank you for coming on the program.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
And Alice Yusuf, thank you very much for coming. And we wish you well as you go on, the very best in life. And we also, I would have loved to meet your son somehow. But God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you.